Chapter 3, Science and Faith, 4 interactions: conflict, independence, dialogue, and integration. In the last video, we examined the conflict perspective and its problems. In this video, we will give 2 examples of the conflict view, which are very common in our modern culture. Example 1, Big Bang or creation. Either you believe in the Big Bang or you believe that God created the universe. However, there are much more interesting ways of talking about the Big Bang and origins than this either-or dilemma posed by the conflict view. We can start, for example, by asking interesting questions. What caused the Big Bang? Was the Big Bang a chaotic event or a highly orchestrated one? Why was the result of the Big Bang a universe fine-tuned for the existence of life? Is there any parallel between the Big Bang and the creation event described in Scriptures? Does a scientific understanding of the physical processes that unfolded in the beginning of time take away from the wonder of God's creation? It is interesting to note that some scientists who have worked with research related to the Big Bang cosmology not only do not subscribe to the either-or view, but also see a parallel between Big Bang and the idea of creation. For example, astrophysicist George Smoot, who won a Nobel Prize for his work using NASA's COBE satellite to measure the heat radiation from Big Bang, wrote, "There is no doubt that a parallel exists between the Big Bang as an event and the Christian notion of creation from nothing." And physicist Arno Penzias, who won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of the radiation echo of the Big Bang, wrote, "Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing. One with the very delicate balance needed to provide exactly the conditions required to permit life, and one which has an underlying, one might say supernatural plan. Thus, the observations of modern science seem to lead to the same conclusions as centuries-old creation beliefs." Later in this course, we will get back to the topic of the Big Bang and implications for the science and faith dialogue. Another example of the conflict perspective: creation or evolution. Take your pick. I really do not recommend this either-or way approached for presenting origins. It is very simplistic, ambiguous, and confusing. Simplistic because it is very superficial and does not address the complexity of the topic of origins. Confusing and ambiguous because not all people who talk about evolution or creation are referring to the same concept. So let's first examine some different definitions of these words. Let's start with definitions of evolution. 1. The general concept of change over time. When we observe celestial objects in the sky, we see them as they were in the past. For example, we see the sun as it was 8 minutes ago because it takes 8 minutes for light to travel the distance from the sun to the earth. So when astronomers use powerful telescopes to see galaxies very far away, they are seeing these galaxies in a distant past, and it is easy to see that the universe has changed with time. Scientists call this change over time evolution. Our planet also changes over time. For example, in the past it experienced ice ages. No one would disagree with the fact that evolution occurs by this definition. But does God use processes in time? Well, the way we came into this world was through a process in time, and it took 9 months. God surely uses processes in time that we observe in nature. And do processes in time take away the wonder of what God does? In the book of Psalms we read, "For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works." Psalms 139, 13 through 14. No, according to Scriptures, processes in time do not make the development and birth of a baby less marvelous. God is the author, and He is sovereign over the processes in time, and the author of time itself. Processes in time is also the way God uses to make a mature Christian. It often takes many years in the desert. The process includes failures, suffering, frustrations, pain, tests, brokenness, and losses. Another definition of evolution is 2. The concept of populations adapting to changing environments, also known as microevolution. A good example of this kind of evolution is bacteria adapting to antibiotics. These adaptations are easily observed. There is nothing controversial about this definition of evolution. 3. Chemical evolution. The belief that from molecules, non-living matter, given the right ingredients and conditions, life will arise through natural processes. Even though there are some theories that attempt to explain the origin of life, it still remains a mystery to scientists. Nobody fully understands how living organisms could have arisen from abiotic, non-living molecules. Chemical evolution is an area of current, active scientific research. This is an interesting quote by astrobiologist Paul Davies. Many investigators feel uneasy about stating in public that the origin of life is a mystery, even though behind closed doors they freely admit that they are baffled. Another definition of evolution is the idea that all organisms are related through common ancestry, which is more commonly referred to as Darwinian evolution. This is a biological topic that will not be addressed in this course, since it is not my area of expertise. I will say, though, that there are different positions in the Christian community. Some Christians think that this kind of evolution was the mechanism God used to bring about the diversity of life. This is called theistic evolution, while other Christians think that this kind of evolution cannot be reconciled with Christianity. Another definition is naturalistic philosophy, that believes that human life is the result of impersonal, purposeless, natural processes, with no input from a supernatural being, also known as evolutionism. Attention here, this is a philosophical idea. As we already learned in Chapter 1, this is not science, but a belief system, a worldview. Unfortunately, this philosophy is often taught as science and many times comes packaged with the teaching of biological evolution. This belief system is in striking opposition to Christianity. Now let's examine definitions of creation or creationism. Number 1, the general belief that God created the universe. There is a God creator of everything. Number 2, young earth creationism. The belief that God created the universe in 6 24-hour literal days, yielding an age of the universe of about 6,000 years. Number 3, old earth creationism. The belief that God created the universe in His own time. This view does not contradict with an age of billions of years for the universe as given by science. While all Christians agree that God is the creator, they not always agree on Genesis interpretations. There is a diversity of positions on the issue among Christians who are committed to the authority of the Scriptures. Some background information here. It is important to note that ancient Hebrew had a much smaller vocabulary compared to modern languages. One word in ancient Hebrew can have many meanings in English. For example, the word yom, translated as day, can also be literally translated as epoch, where morning indicates a beginning and evening indicates completion. Now it is easier to understand why the dilemma creation or evolution is overly simplified and ambiguous, leading to confusion and reinforcing the conflict view of the relationship between science and faith. So if someone asks you which side you are on in the debate, it is better to first clarify the definitions of these terms before expressing your position.